Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to talk about SEC basketball games from Tuesday night. It was a fun and interesting night. We might get through the podcast today without loud noises on my end because Oreo's at the groomer, so that's a good start. But it was an interesting night. I think Arkansas, Florida delivered. I think Vandy, Alabama delivered. Tennessee, Missouri did not deliver, and Quenton Jackson definitely delivered. So that was – we've had worse nights to watch around the SEC this year.
Yeah, no, it was a good night of games. And, yeah, I mean, the two games you expected to delivered, and that's all you can ask for. I mean, the other two were not really going to be, ones that got a lot of attention, even though I think Tennessee-Missouri game played out a little bit different than I would have expected based on – again, we were going off the trend of Missouri playing teams close at home for the most part. But, yeah, Tennessee just happened to, find offense. And what do you know? That's usually the difference for Tennessee. When they can find offense, they can beat anyone. And that's kind of what happened there. But, yeah, Texas A&M, Georgia went as expected, I think. Quenton Jackson, great game. We'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of things went as expected on Tuesday night, which in SEC basketball – that is not something we say a whole lot, but yeah, it was kind of what you thought it would be. So,
let's start in Gainesville, where I thought for a while Colin Castleton was going to will Florida to a win. They got Jalen Williams in foul trouble. Then Castleton got in foul trouble, and what ended up happening is what happens so much. JD Notae kind of takes over, makes a couple of huge plays, and man, the more I watch that kid play, the more I just fall in love with the way he approaches the game, his game itself. He's one that you definitely have to watch. Not that the stats haven't been good, but like when you actually watch him play, you appreciate what he does even more because he, as much as we've liked Jalen Williams, he is the heart and soul of that team, and I just love what he did for them down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you want from your best player, and that's what he does. And, I mean, that's why – for my money, he's one of the top 4 or 5 players in the league. I mean, it's just, it is kind of what you expect from him at this point. He's just, I don't know if there's a more consistent player in the entire league. I mean, I guess you could say Oscar
might be
Tshiebwe.
the other one on his team.
Well, maybe, but let's
Right.
yeah, and that's a good point. Like it's, I mean, he's just like if you just look back though at his numbers this year, he scored in double figures in every game he's played in. And it's just like, I mean, this guy is just a rock for them. And he's just been so consistent. Yeah, he'll miss shots and, may have some games where he has some turnovers he doesn't want. But you just know he's going to, as long as he's not in foul trouble. And, that has been an issue at times. But, I mean, that's still not anything that you're just going to look at and say, when this guy's on the floor, has a good chance to be the best player on the floor for either team. And yeah, he does it again here. Hit some big shots. And I'm like you. I thought, once you hit that point where Jalen Williams got his third foul, Florida did exactly what I think Florida should have done. They just, they started going to Castleton right before that, knowing that he already had 2 fouls. And you're thinking, okay, if you get that third foul, then he's got to sit. And I want to say he got the third foul probably it was early in the second half. After he picked up that second one, which that's why I was thinking, I was like, man, that second foul with 5 seconds left in the first half is going to prove to be costly here because then he picked up his third, not long into the second half. So
yeah, and sat down for a bit too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was thinking that was it. And that I don't have anything to say against Florida on that because they did what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
When a guy has 2 fouls and then once he's out, they did exactly what you're supposed to. You just keep going to your main guy there and.
Did you see?
Me,
let me interrupt. Did you see the 3 minutes that Kamani Johnson played against Castleton?
Yeah, I mean
that was amusing.
Castleton is just someone we talked about it. I mean, look, Castleton's outplaying Walker Kessler in their game. It's just, I mean, that's just there are not many guys like him, and that's what we keep talking about the year of the big man in the SEC, and Castleton's one of those guys where. He's so valuable to his team, and we talked about when he doesn't play, when he does play, and this is one. We had our conversation going into it. One of the things I said was, when Castleton and Appleby play great, Florida's gonna have a chance to win, but I mean everyone else, I don't know at times. Like I just don't necessarily know what you're gonna get sometimes from the rest of the group, and Sometimes it's enough just for Castleton and Appleby to have big games, but sometimes in a game like this where Arkansas has 5 guys that probably play around 30 minutes or more, and all those guys score in double figures and all play pretty well. You got to have more than a couple be able to do that if you're Florida. So, and that's not a knock on Fleming or DeRougie or guys like that, but it's just these are the kind of games where Florida's up 6 with 7.5 to go, and it just flipped. I mean, it just all of a sudden things just started pushing in Arkansas's direction. I mean, it's even a 1-point game with I don't know what the time was, but it's a close game, and you're thinking at that point when Florida's up 6, all right, like this is your opportunity, and yet in the final 7 minutes, Arkansas scores 26 points, and so. I mean, that's Arkansas. I mean, that's why I kept saying it. I think this is why they played as well as anyone in the SEC. Throw Kentucky in there with them. We'll talk about Auburn a little bit. I know we don't have an Auburn game to talk about, but there is something I want to talk about with Auburn before we wrap up this video. But I mean, that's Arkansas, right? And Florida. I said it, man. I don't think Florida played bad in this game.
I'm glad you said that, because the thing I wanted to bring up next is it's tempting to look at what Florida did in the final few minutes and be critical. And I thought there were times, Myron Jones had 2 great looks from the corner that I think he'd normally knock down one of those. Didn't fall. Appleby, I think it was Appleby, took a pretty questionable shot at one point. But, I watched them and I'm just like, Arkansas, Blake, isn't giving them a lot of room to make plays. And you've got to give credit to their effort on defense. I mean, I don't think Florida played badly like you just said. I just think that they locked it down defensively when it really mattered.
And that's why Arkansas is where they are, and why Florida is where they are. I mean, and again, that's not a knock on Florida. It's just that's why Arkansas is one of the best teams in the league, and Florida's in the middle. I mean, that's the difference. And so, Arkansas just understands, I think, and finds ways to make those plays in those kind of games, and they've done it time and time again now. Remember, they are one play away from having I don't even know what it'd be at this point, 12-game win. I don't even know what the winning streak would be at this point had they beaten Alabama. So.
Well, they started 0-3, so they've won 11, so it would be 12.
9 a.m. is a struggle. Math at 10 p.m. or 5 p.m. It doesn't matter. So I'm just whatever it would be. I mean, that's just you're one play away basically from that happening. So that's why I just keep going back to, and that's why I felt pretty good about Arkansas's chances here. Is they just find ways to win now, and it's crazy to think the conversations we were having about this team a month and a half ago, but. Yeah. We said all it really took was just a matter of can you figure out whatever that missing element is, and whatever it is, they figured it out. And so missed opportunity for Florida, in my opinion. Now I think if you're Florida, if we want to turn the discussion that way, I don't think Florida played bad at all, but unfortunately,
Castleton was brilliant.
Unfortunately, not playing bad doesn't get you into the NCAA tournament. Winning gets you to the NCAA tournament, and they don't have enough of those at this point. I think Florida has to win out now, and I think they probably have to win 1 or maybe 2, depending on what the rest of the bubble looks like in the SEC tournament to get in. So that, to me, is a tall task. Because, look, they've got Georgia left, Vanderbilt left. I don't know that Vanderbilt game, to me, is very tricky. Georgia, Vanderbilt on the road, Kentucky at home. I think they got to win all 3 of those. If they do that, I think they'll be right there on that. First couple teams maybe in or out line, perhaps. But again, that's all dependent on the rest of the bubble. And when you put yourself in this situation, it's not always just about what you do; it's what everyone else does. And I think that's the situation now for Florida.
Well, I'll put it on me. I think I talked Myron Jones up the other day. He puts up a goose egg in the scoring column last night in 30 minutes. Although he did have 5 assists and a turnover, so it wasn't totally empty, but. Yeah, that. And the other thing, Devontae Davis played really well for them last night, but, man, he almost let Florida back in the game with the slap the backboard deal late, too.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that happened. I just thought – I'm glad you brought him up because he's been kind of someone – when we went into the season, like, you expected him, and he's been a big part of what they've done.
We haven't talked about him much this year, yeah.
Well, and I think it's just, I think it's just a matter of because you're talking about the other guys that have, but I mean, he's still been on the floor a ton. He still has to play a lot. I mean, he's still someone that I think brings value to them just in terms of his. I think his quickness, his passing, those kind of things. I mean, he's very quick, and I think back to that game against Auburn, right? He had 5 steals in that game, made some big plays, and so yeah, I mean, the scoring outbursts haven't necessarily been there throughout SEC play, but I thought he was, that's probably his best game in the league. I thought this year, that game last night. So yeah, I mean, he's another big part of it, and I think you have to have that because, I mean, let's be honest. There are some other guys maybe we thought would play more minutes that necessarily haven't given them the type of minutes we probably expected. And for Davis, I mean, he's as important as a lot of these guys because again, it's like JD Notae is going to have his, and Jalen Williams is playing as well as any person right now. I think he's been great, but Davis is a big part of them too. And so, yeah, another great win for Arkansas. And man, I'm telling you, they are setting things up for a very interesting finish here when it comes to not just their seating, because I mean the height is incredible now, but like if Auburn slips somewhere or slips a couple places, I mean Arkansas, we didn't think it's possible for them to win out with this final schedule, but here they are now with Kentucky and LSU at home, both winnable games, and then Tennessee on the road. Sure, going to be a challenge, but it's winnable. And so, yeah, it's crazy to think we spent all this time a month and a half ago talking about how this back half of the schedule was just so brutal, and it is. But right now, they've only lost one of them. So,
Well, here's how it's fitting together. Notae is their lead guy. Williams is that just front court guy that gives him a great performance night in night out. Amude is, I called him the X factor. He can jump up and have 25-point games at times. He got 11 last night. He played 38 minutes. So that's like your second, third scoring type guy who can do some other things. Aldis Toney has been one of the most efficient scorers in the league. He's a great supporting player. He's not going to be your lead guy, but every team needs. I mean, like true shooting percentage for him right now, 61%. That's really good. That's one of probably the best. I don't know, 5-6 marks in the league among guys who play regular minutes. We talked about Davis. Chris Likes has a role when he wants to play smart, which isn't always the case. I just think it's like it was last year. Just they had the guys, they had their roles, it fit, and the characters are different, but it's the same thing we saw when Arkansas was blazing hot this time a year ago.
yep. I mean, they're exactly where they want to be, and the Must Bus is rolling right along now, fully gassed up, and yeah, ready to hit the road, cross country, wherever they got to go. So yeah, they're rolling.
Alabama Vandy was a really good game. Went down to the buzzer. What stood out to you there? I've got a few, but I want to hear yours
I
first.
mean, the biggest for me is it feels like a missed opportunity for Vanderbilt. I mean, we talked this up about how they. I don't think they were necessarily in a situation where they had to win out to at least be on that line, maybe of winning one or two in the SEC tournament. But look, I mean, a loss to Alabama is not, it's not a loss to South Carolina or anything, I guess. But I just felt like the opportunities were there for them, and yeah, it's got to be frustrating, right? I mean, it's you feel like after the A&M game, as we said, you put yourself in a really good position with these Final Four, and we always say you've got to win your home games because you just don't really, you don't really know what to expect on the road at this point, and so I just thought they had their chances. The Jordan Wright play at the end, I know everyone's going to talk about, but I don't think it was as clear cut as maybe they made it seem in terms of just it wasn't like a wide open layup. It was more of a guy comes flying in.
Yeah,
You kind of adjust your body a little bit, and I mean, look,
could have
you talk
dunked it.
about
Could have laid. I think he got
right. I
caught in
mean, it's
between.
yeah, and look, you talk about the one I think about is like the ball rolling around. Who was it? Someone. Oh man, I don't know if it's Robbins shot a free throw and it
Oh, it
like
was
or
Malora
Malora
Brown.
Brown.
It
I
hit.
mean, it
I've
bounced
never
more
seen a
times
ball,
than
yeah, hit more
I've never
parts of the
seen it
rim
before.
than that one did and go in.
And then Gurley takes a three with like 12 minutes left, and it's I don't know, Vanderbilt's up or something. I don't remember if 12 minutes was right, but that ball I thought was literally gonna go off the backboard and not hit the rim, and it basically just goes off the backboard, just kind of stops right there on the back of the rim and just drops in. And so there were a lot of shots in that game that I thought, man, that rim did not do did favors for some people, but not for others. But I when Alabama wants to play defense, they can be really good. That's my
Yeah.
other observation. But sometimes they don't, and I just think that you can kind of see it in Nate Oates during games and stuff.
Oh,
It's
he was
just,
hot at times last night.
I mean, I don't know what you do because it's just again, I mean, I'm sure you could pick apart certain things if you look at it and say, well, maybe you should have done this or should have done that, but there comes a certain point where you just kind of have to put your guys out there and you're trying to just will them to do some of these things. And I'm not gonna, again, I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus or anything, but they just don't have it on defense sometimes. Like this just looks like a team that's I don't know. Sometimes they just don't look interested on the defensive side, and it's again, I don't know what that is or how that mentality changes. I do know one of the reasons is last year because they had someone like Herbert Jones. I think they could sort of keep everything together, but this team just doesn't really have that identity, and I think that's got to be something that's frustrating for Alabama fans. Is just sometimes, man, you think about the potential of a team like this and what they've been able to accomplish. We've talked about this all year. The teams they've beaten, and when they really want to get there, I think it's still their offense that's carrying them to that point. I don't think it's like Alabama getting these big stops or anything. A lot of the time, it's just they have guys who can hit shots. And last night, they had Javon Quinterly really step
Yeah.
up
Oh,
and
he was super.
hit some big shots, and that's what we keep saying. I mean, when when he plays well, like they can be really good. And it's like the Kentucky game, he only had 6 points, but he had 21 against Mississippi State, a big performance there. He gets 19. I think the difference in this game in beating Vanderbilt. So if you just we're not saying anything we haven't said this season. It's all about consistency for Alabama, not just on the defensive side, but for every guy that steps on the floor. It's just about consistency and what you're going to get out of everyone. I thought last night they didn't have it for a lot of the game, but when they needed it, they had a lot of different guys that kind of contributed a little bit here and there, not just offensively, but doing some of the other things that you have to do to win. And I thought that was the difference. Even though, again, to me, I think Vanderbilt had their chances, but they just once Alabama got rolling, it just felt like one where you're climbing uphill, and they just didn't climb far enough. So
I feel like the predictions video we did for last night's game was one of the better ones we've done all year, because other than us thinking Missouri, Tennessee would be closer, we basically nailed all of it. And I was kind of on the Vandy side of this game, and you talked me into it because listening to you and just thinking about athleticism at guard, I just thought that's where Vanderbilt does not match up well. And really, I think there were a lot of things that factored in, and I want to go into a couple of more in a minute, but they had no answer for Quinterly. I don't know why Jordan Wright was guarding him at times. There's just no way he could keep up. Although the only other alternative at that point is Pippen, and I guess that probably saps his energy on the other end. But I just felt like their guards were going to be too much athletically for Vanderbilt to handle, and I think I don't know if that was the main reason they won. I'll tell you another thing. 22 of 25 from the line sure helped a lot, but it was certainly one of the bigger reasons.
yeah, I mean I think we've said that from the beginning. Alabama's guard depth, when at their best, is probably unlike anyone in the SEC, right? It's just, I mean, that is how they have to win. That's what it comes down to. Yes, like guys like Gurley and Bediako, they've got to play well, but their guards are going to drive everything they do, and that's going to determine how far Alabama goes, in my opinion. It's just when you've got all these, this group of Shackelford, Quinterly, Davis, and Ellis, those are the difference makers, and that's why I think if you're Nate Oates, it's like you need those guys on the floor at all times. Like, and maybe there are scenarios where you can't play all four together, but it's like that's where the defensive part comes in, where you've got to have all of these guys on the same page when it comes to playing defense and those kind of things, because they can be really good. And I mean, look, there was a point last night where I'm watching that game and I'm saying, I don't know if Alabama's got it. I just don't know if they're going to win this
It felt
game.
with 10 minutes left like Vandy was headed for
Yeah.
a win. They were in control.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was at. I mean, I was like, man, this to me starts to feel like one of those Alabama games where they just maybe don't have it. And then that's what we say all the time is think about how quickly that game changes. And it's just that's what they can
Well,
do to you. And that I think is why Alabama and you know what? Maybe that's why they're such a team that's so up and down. And even last year, they probably had some of those swings that we just don't remember because we've seen so many games since then. But I'm sure even last year, all the success they had some swings in games where, oh gosh, they're playing awful for this 8 minute stretch. But then in a span of 3 minutes, it's like they score 15 points and everything is erased. And
mhm.
that's just, I think that's just the style of play and just how they want to play. And when they get going, man, they're hard to stop. And like you said, that shooting 25 free throws, making 22 of those, that is not an Alabama stat line over the years. We've always talked about their free throw shooting, but man, they needed it in that game. I mean, this was one where Scottie Pippen gets to the free throw line 18 times. I want to say
Yeah.
the majority of those came with
The
what,
last 2 minutes.
like I mean,
They couldn't
he
get a
shot a
stop
lot.
against him. He
I mean,
was getting elbows to the face and all kinds of stuff, and he just
well,
kept getting up and hitting free throws.
I know there were both fan bases on Twitter
Oh
that
yeah.
were not happy with the other in terms of the amount of free throws being shot, but yeah, still, I mean, it was a really good game. I will say that. I mean, and I think that goes back to my point on Vanderbilt is even if this team isn't in a position to make the NCAA tournament, let's say going into the SEC tournament, which I think it's going to be hard now, but I don't want them on my side of the bracket. I don't want them. If I'm a team I'm trying to look at the standings here. Like, is there a scenario where Vanderbilt could play Florida in the first round, like in an 8-9? I assume there is, but
It's back to that
yeah,
math
because
thing we talked about.
well, again, we're playing 3 games out. It's still a
Right.
possibility. Let's just point that because Florida's 7-8, Vanderbilt 6-9, so it's still possible. Um, but like that's what I mean. If I'm Florida, I don't know if I want any part of that because it's just like, and we'll see what happens when these two play next week. But I just think Vanderbilt's the kind of team that, man, they are right there. They can't seem to turn that corner at times, but they
Yeah,
are right there
I
waiting.
think the bubble burst last night. I think they need to run the table from here on
Oh
out.
well, there's no
I
doubt.
don't
Yeah.
see them doing that. With it, yeah, I don't see them beating both Mississippi State or Auburn. With Ole Miss on the road, I think is the other one. I'll look that up. We
We said
talked
it
about
was a
this
long shot no
yesterday.
matter what, but
Yeah, I don't see it now. I think they had to have last night's, and they didn't get it. But you talk about that spurt where the tables turned. Did you notice what happened on the Vanderbilt end?
I I probably know where you're going, but I don't know exactly
Okay,
where you're
well,
going
their
with that.
fans were going nuts about this, and they're right. And full disclosure, I think Jerry Stackhouse has done a good job at times.
You're
I do
talking about the
think.
substitutions,
Oh
probably.
my goodness, I was watching that, and I think everybody else was, and was like, "What are you thinking?" I know you need to get your guys rest, but he had basically at least four of the. I would say of the six worst players they had available last night, he had five of them on the floor for an extended period of time when Alabama made that run to take the lead and didn't look back. It was, I think, he went Drew Weichert, who's a walk-on who just got a scholarship, who started his career as a Division III player. Trey Thomas, Taryn Frank, Shane Dezzoni, and it was either Gabe Dorsey or Tyron Lawrence. I think it was Lawrence. But I'm just going, and I'm watching it before it happens. I'm going, you can't do that. You cannot do that. Alabama's got too much athleticism for what you're putting on the floor. You do not have a scorer on the floor who can get it done in that spot, and that's when the tide turned, pun slightly intended there.
I didn't realize that they played 11 guys last night.
Yeah,
Vanderbilt did.
well,
That's
yeah,
a. I think there's a difference in Vanderbilt right now playing 11 guys versus Alabama playing what 10. I think there's a difference there though, right? Just based on where the rosters are at, I think there's a gap in terms of Alabama can probably afford to play 10, and Holt and Gary didn't play much, but yeah, it's it's interesting. That's for sure. And I do want to point this out though, because we've been talking about this guy quickly, and we'll wrap up with this game. But Robbins was, I mean, this guy,
well, here, okay.
I think,
Here's another thing. What is he doing on the bench the last 4 to 5 minutes? He was great. He's hitting jump
yeah,
hooks. He didn't rebound much, but he was that post presence, and that and the last play where Wright misses the shot. The play actually, and Stack got indignant about it in the post game last night. Apparently, I didn't see it, but he was pulling the, I know better than all you fools thing that he does at times. And the play was designed as a corner three for Trey Thomas. I don't know why on God's green earth that was a play call, but it was. And the thing I'm thinking, and I know that, like we went over this with JD Notae last week. I don't remember which game it was, but I guess it was the Tennessee game where no, it wasn't. It was a game they lost. That was Alabama. Yeah. Where he gets the ball, he goes right. There's three defenders. You're going, okay, if you're Alabama, you know what's coming, and they expected it, and okay, that's not going to work. Call a timeout and maybe reset. They didn't. He took a bad shot. They lost the game. That could have happened with Pippen. He could have gotten the ball. Alabama would have converged with several defenders, which, although they did that all night, it didn't matter. I'm thinking you got a decent shot to get him to the line to tie the game. Now, they wanted to go for the win, hit the three, I get it, but I think Pippen gave the ball up twice on that last possession. And I kind of get why, but I'm like, man, that's the guy I want winning or losing the game for me at that point, based on the way the last 2 or 3 minutes had gone, because Alabama knew the ball was going there. He kept getting it. He kept getting fouled. He kept hitting shots. There were just 3 or 4, I thought, tactical blunders, if you want to take the hardest case take on that they made in that game last night.
Yeah, that's why I think it's frustrating, because like we said, this is a team that hasn't been anywhere near the NCAA tournament in recent years, and we thought at best they could be a bubble team this year. And again, we play the what if Robbins plays the majority of the year, if Chapman plays the majority of the year. I think they're, I think they are. I think they're probably a tournament team, and I don't think that's being, over. I just think they are. Like, I think they probably make the NCAA tournament if both those guys play the majority of the year. But you know what? Aaron Naismith, Darius Garland, like, it's just, we can say that about a lot of different things maybe, and it's just, you never know. But yeah, got to be frustrating, because I said it. I mean, I thought there was a point in that game where I'm looking up and I'm thinking, I think Vanderbilt might do this, because I just didn't really see much from Alabama. I didn't really see that next gear that we usually talk about with them. But then that's the thing with Alabama. When it flips, it flips. And, they make their run, and that was that. So.
Well, you mentioned not wanting to play Vandy. This is, if you think they're going to throw in the towel on the season, they're not. I mean, they haven't done it under Stackhouse yet. They win 2 conference games this first year and 3 the next, and yet they played hard, and they got Alabama in Tuscaloosa 2 years ago in the finale. They won a game in the tournament, I think, last year. So I'm with you. I don't think they're going away. I just think their chance to do something of significance and make a run at the NCAA tournament is done after last night, in all likelihood.
I mean, look, let's think about this quickly, and I'm not going to stay on this too long, but lost to South Carolina by 2.
Yeah.
Lost to Tennessee by 8. Lost to South Carolina by 9. Lost to Kentucky on the road by 7. Lost to Tennessee on the road by 9. Lost to Auburn on the road by 14, but that one was for a while.
That was a game for a while.
They're there, and and they lose by 2 here. They have been right there in a lot of games. I think really the only game or the only 2 games I think about, the Kentucky game at home, which winds up being 12, which was not even close to that. They were down 30 with 5 or 6 minutes left. And the one at Florida were just completely just did nothing and lost 61-42. Every other SEC game they've been in. And so that's why I say I would not – they're just not the kind of team I would want to deal with if I'm someone that really – but I think for the most part, Florida's the only team that probably isn't going to be in that situation where, Florida probably going to be trying to play their way in. And, if you get matched up with Vanderbilt and you're like, oh, man, I wouldn't want that. But then, it's not going to hurt. Let's say Vanderbilt upsets a Kentucky or a Tennessee or someone. I think at that point, then we start having that discussion about Vanderbilt again. But that's why I say, depending on where they wind up, I just wouldn't want to play this team. They've been right there. They just haven't turned that corner yet.
Yeah, I think you can say that about most of the league right now.
Most.
Some
are not. And
we will one team we'll get to in a minute that doesn't fit that category. Tennessee just did to Missouri what Tennessee's been doing. It's winning with guards. Josiah Jordan-James was not great, but solid again. And, I mean, it's been the same script for Tennessee for, I don't know, 6 weeks now. Although they got a little more out of Victor Bailey last night. That's probably the one thing that changed a bit. But, I mean, Tennessee was just on cruise control in this one basically all night.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to contribute on this one. This was, like we said, you could have gone by Missouri's home games and said you would have thought this would be close. And I thought, just based on that, it felt like the kind of game where if Tennessee struggles a little bit on offense, Missouri's the kind of team that can grind you. But Tennessee didn't really struggle on offense, so that was the difference there. So yeah, I thought they played.
Putting up 80 in Columbia, that's a pretty good offensive night.
No, that's what I mean. They didn't struggle at all. I mean,
Yeah.
they scored points, and
I'm
I don't
agreeing.
even know. I mean, I'm looking back here. Has anyone scored? I mean, Alabama scored 86, but Missouri won that game in Columbia. Trying to see anyone else. No one else this year has hit except for UMKC. Wow, how crazy is that, right?
That was November
UMKC is
15th.
the only other team that's hit the 80 mark against them in Columbia. So yeah. I mean, that's why I say it's when Tennessee plays offense, Tennessee can beat anyone. And I mean, it's just like I just keep thinking about this. I'm like, this team goes from it's just so wild, but the opponent matters too. They scored 51 at Texas. They turned around and scored 90 at home against Texas A&M. They scored 48 on the road against Arkansas. Turn around and score 80 on the road against Missouri. And again, the opponent has a lot to do with that. But I just think that that's kind of, perhaps what you expect sometimes from Tennessee. But great game for Kenny Chandler. I thought he was fantastic. Just watching him play, I've said this from the very start. He's just someone that if you ever have any concerns about guys transitioning from being a 5-star player into the SEC just because of the grind of the SEC, you could tell from day one this guy was going to be just fine. He's too good of a player, and he's going to have a very great career at the next level, I think. And for Missouri, it kind of comes back to some of the things we've talked about before. I just think it's, the element of not being able to hit shots from outside. They go 5 of 20 in this one. Offense can kind of sputter at times, and I think they're to me the kind of team that I feel like they're a team that's really hard to rally. You know what I mean? Like they need to be in a position where they're up 10 or something. Whereas they're not the kind of offensive Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama, Kentucky. Like they just don't. And I mean that's where they are. But they just don't have that firepower to make those huge runs like that to me. And when they get stagnant and the other team is playing well, like we kind of saw that here. Tennessee opened that lead up. What was it? I'm going to pull this up here. There's a point there where I think it was 40. Let's see. It was 41-33. So Tennessee's up 8 with like 16 minutes left. And then it just gets out to 57-36, so that's a 16-3 run. And from there, you're not looking at Missouri like the kind of team that's going to be able to make that offensive, run like that to me. And so that was the difference. Good win for Tennessee. I thought a good, bounce back. This is kind of what you wanted to see from them. And now they will get ready for, arguably either their biggest game or second biggest game of the season coming up on Saturday. Or third biggest game down Arizona. That's a big one too. So
I hate to say this because I think everybody likes him. I think at a time where there's so much wrong with college basketball, I think he stands for a lot of the right stuff. But the fan base just isn't on board with what's going on there. Missouri's got a new athletic director. Attendance is just really poor. I get the sense that there may be a coaching change going down there.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise anyone. I don't think, just based on where things are at. They made the tournament. That's another, to me, a big what if. I mean, we talk about what ifs with injuries, right? When you have the Porters and you just think about how different things could have been. Now, I'm not saying, those guys aren't going to be there 4 years, but my point is if you accomplish things, let's say they make an Elite 8 run or a Sweet 16, that visibility and those kind of things can really impact your recruiting, as we know. And so I always think back to that. It's such a huge what if, as we've had with Vanderbilt and others. But
yeah, I was going to say Bryce Drew would like a word here too.
I mean, it's just, things could be so much different, and we could play that game for a lot of teams, as I said. But Yeah, it just hasn't. They've just not been able to. Even last year, we knew it was kind of their year to make that run, and that was the best team he's had last year. And they got off to such a great start. They're 10-2. I think they were top 10 in the country. Or they beat Alabama. It was 13-3, and they're a top 10 team, whatever it was, and then they just completely sputter down the stretch. And so, yeah, I think that's where, to me, I'm with you. Like I talked to a lot of people, and I have never heard anyone that I've talked to, and probably I've talked to hundreds of coaches around the league, and I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about Conso Martin. It's just like, this guy's one of the most well-respected guys out there, and I know that fan bases, I'm sure Tennessee fans will chime in and Missouri
Oh
fans will
yeah.
chime in, and everyone will have their thoughts on it. But and I understand, because you're trying to win, but he is someone that, for all the remarks anyone wants to make about guys who do it the right way or the wrong way, like, he's someone who does it the right way. And that's why we always go back to, unfortunately, it's a business, and you have to succeed and you have to have wins, and it's just the nature of coaching. Everyone understands that. But it's year 5, and I think they just probably haven't had the success they wanted to have. And it'll be interesting, because Missouri, to me, is one of those schools that the fan base looks at that job in a very high, they're thinking back to the success they had, and when
Yeah.
they're making those runs, whatever, the years run together, a decade ago or however long it's been. Um, but in the SEC, as we've said, it's just the competition's gotten so much harder. But that's where everyone looks at Auburn, everyone looks at Alabama, LSU, the teams we keep bringing up. Why can't we be that? And the problem is, somebody's got to finish 1 through 14. That's my go-to line. And yeah, so it's gotten tough. We'll see what happens, but not exactly the season I think Missouri wanted to have, even though, as we said, it's not like they disappointed this season, because we really wouldn't have a lot of high expectations for them coming in. So
Okay, I meant to lead the podcast with this, and I forgot, but I'll do it now. Of the 3 NCAA teams that we've talked about, well, that are going to the tournament, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Alabama, that we just talked about, who got the biggest boost in the net last night?
oh boy, jeez. Here's who it should be: Arkansas, but my guess is it's probably not.
It's not. It's Tennessee.
Yeah, so
Tennessee
there you go.
moved from 11 to 9, I think, in the net. Unless I got that backwards. Arkansas and Alabama it seems to not matter what they do. They just stay where they are.
Yeah, Arkansas wins on the road against Florida, and it is what it is, I guess. So
I mean, I get that sometimes
it's
teams that you've played in the past have maybe done some things, because it's not just what you do that night. Yeah, Tennessee moved from 9 to 11. I got that right. Arkansas stayed exactly at 23 by beating Florida on the road. And Alabama stayed exactly at 22, beating Vandy on the road, which I think is a quad 1 win or close to it. Let's see. No, Vanderbilt's dropped, I think, out of that quad, if I can find it. There's 79, so close. It's
here's
a
what
high
I know:
quad 2.
Arkansas is going to beat Kentucky, LSU, and Tennessee to finish the season. They're going to finish 34th in the net. They're going to drop 11 spots.
I like
my
it.
guess.
I like
I'm
it.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you, Nat. Not really, but
Not really. The question I got on the A&M game, I'll see if you can guess it.
I have no idea.
What happened on that one Quenton Jackson free throw?
Oh God, yeah, poor guy. Come on, man. What are you doing?
Come
You
on.
gotta.
It's a free shot. There's nobody
That's all you
guarding
can do. Come on, man. You go 11-11 from the floor, and you can't make a free throw.
3 of 3
No.
from 3.
He was excellent. I mean, it's like, what's the stat? They kept talking about it. First player in 25 years to go perfect from the floor and score 30 points, I think, 30 or more. So, yeah, so that's quite an accomplishment. I don't care who it's against, to go perfect from the floor and score 31 points. Like we said, we joke about the free throw, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is we always talk about this, and we can flip this to the other side too with Cario Quindo. It's the good players on the average.
Who
or
by the
below
way,
average
was the
teams.
game high scorer last night.
Yeah, they had 33. That's like when you asked me, and I don't want to. You asked me a couple weeks ago. It was like the Quindo and I don't remember who we compared him to, but I was like, this guy's really good. Like he's just that's what I was going to bring up with Jackson is like Jackson's had a really good season, but he's on an average team or below average team, and he's not going to get the recognition for that. But that's the thing is like that's where like us because we're able to watch all these teams, we can give them that due, and understandably, I mean, an Auburn fan they're not going to, most fans aren't going to care about watching Georgia and A&M every time they play, but it's just kind of one of those things where that's the beauty I think of being able to just really zone in on one league, unless you're just crazy like me and watch everyone, but you get to see these players that aren't going to get the recognition, and it's just they're still fantastic, but they just don't. They're not going to get it. But yeah, A&M, I don't really have a lot. I mean, what do we say about this? They win by 14. They score 91 points. They shoot 71% from two. That'll get it done. Georgia turned the ball over a ton. I don't have anything else to say about that. Georgia, we know where things are headed for Georgia after the SEC tournament. And so, yeah.
I think we need to have a whole podcast about who had the best season in a situation where it didn't matter. It could be Okendo, it could be Kobe Brown, it could be Quenton Jackson, it could be Henry Coleman. We might be nuts enough to do that.
I think it's Okendo in that scenario.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I know he's on the worst team,
maybe,
but it's still,
maybe.
I mean, this
the
guy
athleticism is hard to.
I would still put when I watch this guy play. I'm not saying he'd start for every team in the SEC, maybe, but I'd put him on. He'd be playing if he was on my team. I mean, he'd be playing a lot of minutes because I think he's. It's like, and I'm not. This is not a knock on Severe Wheeler, but was Wheeler? I have to look back at the numbers.
No,
but
Wheeler wasn't as good as he is. I don't think.
I was gonna say he wasn't as dominant, and so, but Wheeler's team, I don't think was as bad, were they? I don't remember how bad.
Well,
Georgia was
nobody was as bad as this team.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that was another thing. I mean, he had a little more help. So it's hard to quantify. Everyone can.
Katie
have an
Johnson
opinion.
on that team last year too.
That's right. Yeah.
How wild is that? That like two of the starting guards on the top two teams.
Well, that's my point. I would take this guy too. I'd start him somewhere else as well. I mean, I think he's really good, but isn't that crazy though? Like if you keep all three of those guys, what's our conversation about Georgia right now? Much different. They're winning some games with those three leading the show. So
yeah, I think Kobe Brown has had a really good year statistically, but I think that's kind of, and he's a good player, but that seems kind of like every team's got to have a leading scorer type of thing. I mean, and he didn't do anything close to what he's doing last year when they had a lot more players. He was just kind of another part.
He was really their only option this year coming in based on the knowns. Because wasn't he like really the only player that's coming back? I guess Pickett was the other one, but so
Quenton Jackson's got more help for sure than those other guys. So
yeah, I mean A&M's, I don't know. I mean they're 17-11, 6-9 in the league. To get to 500 in the league, they're gonna have to beat Ole Miss, Alabama, Mississippi State. I think that's gonna be a challenge. So
I think you got something you want to get off your chest.
I don't want you to word it that way because this is look, we're not celebrities here, right? Like we can actually interact with our fans, and that's one of the we enjoy doing this. And but I want to bring up something real quick because Tony, my guy Tony, in the comments, Tony, we appreciate it. You say you love us, we love you as well. But I want to point out, you asked us about us saying Auburn has issues on the road, and we've talked about this a lot recently, but I do want to bring this up real quick. The reason why we have to say that is because if we just told you that Auburn had the best road record in the league, what kind of value are we bringing at all? Like if any of us could look at a piece of paper and say Auburn's got the best road record, right? But unfortunately, our job is we have to dig a little bit deeper. And that's where when we say Auburn has the issues on the road, we know they have the best road record in the league. But it's all, I think, someone had a comment here that I thought was fantastic. Brady, our other guy here, Brady. We appreciate you as well. He said it's all relative, and this is a very good point. For a one seed, escaping at Georgia and Mizzou and losing two in the final, or two of their last four road games is struggling on the road. That's kind of what we're saying is we have to find, I'm not saying we aim to pick teams apart, but that is what we mean when we say struggling on the road is they are a couple plays away from losing to Georgia and Missouri. Yes, I know we can play the what if game. We do this all the time, but they haven't played great on the road. I think that's worth that is an obvious point, I think, to me. But yes, we understand they still have the best record, and it's just they in comparison to what I guess they are at home and everything else they've done, it can be a little bit of a struggle on the road at times. So that's our point, I think.
I think my favorite YouTube comment of the last few weeks was the one where we have no passion. And where you didn't see this one, that we were as exciting as a box of saltines.
Wow,
you missed this one.
That's we do try to, and I want to point this out. Like we know we
respond to some of the comments, not all.
A lot of people have started to follow our stuff, and we appreciate that. Without these people, we are nothing. We are just two guys sitting around. Our dogs are barking in the background, and that's all we do. But this is what we enjoy. I mean, we do this because we want to interact with other people, and we see all the comments. Apparently, I don't see all of them because I don't remember that one. But yes, if you can find me anyone else out there, and this is not a knock on anyone, we love our SEC Network guys. Like, they all do a great job. Peter Burns, Pat Bradley, go down the line. Patrick Young's great. All those guys. But we are just, we love this, and we do this, and just like they do, right? Like, we're just trying to give you a different avenue of different opinions on SEC basketball, and just like those guys do on the network every day, we want to try to do the same thing. And obviously we're not.
We can probably be a little more critical at times.
Our style isn't as good as those guys. Let's be completely honest.
They're great. They have some great network guys. We love them. We're friends with some of them.
Their suit game is much better than ours.
Oh, totally. Look what I wear every day to these things. I've got to.
The reason I do this is because I don't have to, get up and do anything. I don't have to brush my hair. I mean, I love this. This is great. We just can do whatever we want to do. I'm sitting in my room here. So no, but we have fun with this. But I did want to bring that up. We try to go a little bit deeper than just the surface level of, hey, they have the best record, therefore there's nothing bad we can say. That's just not. We have to go a little bit deeper.
Let's be honest. The main reason we do this is you and I have had a feeling for years. We knew each other long before we did this venture together, that we feel like basketball and baseball in this league are really good. Well, but basketball has been up and down, but even when it's been really good, it's been undercovered. Baseball has been criminally undercovered from the 30,000-foot level, and that's what we're here. We spend a lot of time. I mean, you may not like our opinions, but I'll promise you we don't come at them half-cocked. I mean, we're watching a lot of games. Only exception I had this weekend was I didn't get to see a lot of basketball because I was watching a lot of baseball. But that's fine. That goes with the territory. I joke about it, but I think the saltines comment, I took offense for saltines, and I'll tell you what. When I was little, I used to get sick, which I'd missed 2-3 days a year with legitimate illness. And do you know what happened? You know what my mom would do?
Uh-oh.
She'd bring me chicken soup and saltines. I mean, Blake, that goes the wrong way.
Oh, boy.
Maybe we're not here to do this.
It all comes together.
It does.
Yes. But Tony, we appreciate you. If we ever get some good merch, we'll send you some merch. We'll send you a shirt or something.
Hey,
we appreciate it.
In all seriousness, I do appreciate it enough that people are paying attention, even when the shots are a little bit over the top, because it means you're watching and you're listening.
Some of them are. For the most part, we have some really.
For the most part, our comments are
commenters.
Great. Our audience is intelligent. It is nuanced. That's the thing that I've really been impressed about. You look at the comments on our board or on our YouTube, even if you don't agree with them, some thought went into most of them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to detour for a minute.
Oh, boy.
Because you saw Twitter yesterday with the power poll we released, which got an amazing baseball, which got an amazing amount of views. Apparently, I've very much angered the Alabama and the Tennessee fan bases for baseball.
Well, every good thing we had to say about their basketball teams a minute ago just went out the window because you hate their baseball teams.
Yes, so. I clearly hate them both. But the thing I'm going to say is I think that, well, I mean, you can say anything because it's a free country. I reserve the right to not take your comments seriously unless you can name at least 3 players on the teams that I've ranked ahead of yours. That's going to be my rule.
Boy.
If you can
There you
name
go.
players and make a case, I think my favorite comments was LMAO was a good. I mean, that kind of said it all. I think he's on crack. Might have been my favorite. There was another good one in there. Oh no, my favorite was these are the worst rankings I've ever seen.
Hopefully, some of these
the
people are
cake.
also watch our videos. That way, I want to get the interaction going here. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they still. I'd like them to hear this from you. So
Some things you just don't respond to on Twitter, but you see these from. I try not to spend an inordinate amount of time on Twitter. At one point I had actually deleted the Twitter account or Twitter app from my phone. But as a business decision, you probably can't do that. But
yeah,
I
well,
am amused at the intensity of the feedback at times.
we love it. People are passionate about it, and if they weren't, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So
Yeah.
and we wouldn't have 700 and something subscribers. So yes, we appreciate all of you guys. As we said, we're having fun with this and always love your feedback. So leave it there, keep
Most
it
of it.
clean, and don't call us names of crackers or anything like that, and we'll be okay. So
Favorite comment there is it the saltines, the on crack, or the worst power rankings ever?
we're gonna come up with the Chris Lee rules. You're gonna be like the new Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. We're gonna have all kinds of codes. It's gonna be the
Yeah.
Chris code. We're gonna have just an entire book made up of your rules on this stuff about comments and everything, and we'll read that and we'll narrate it as an audiobook on our YouTube channel. I'm
Hey,
just
look,
kidding. Don't unsubscribe.
if I'm wrong, tell me and make your case. But let's recognize for a minute there might be other good teams in this league, and the world may not revolve around just the one that you follow. I'm just gonna.
You need to tell that to the Twitter audience. Our YouTube audience, they're much better at that.
YouTube might
they
hear
are
it.
more
Twitter, I don't think is
level-headed. Way
Yeah.
more level-headed. So we
But
appreciate it.
we did pick up a ton of Ole Miss fans on Twitter.
Well, that's good. They can all follow you in the entire season as you talk about how much you don't like them. So
Yeah, the minute they drop to 2 or 3, then we'll lose half of them maybe. But
we'll talk about Ole Miss in our next video because they got a big game tonight, which we don't know the outcome of yet. But yeah, big game.
It's been fun.
Yep. Yeah, I don't even know how I'm supposed to wrap this one up. Be sure to subscribe, follow all of our other videos, watch everything we do. We got baseball, basketball, we got it all on the channel. So we appreciate all our subscribers. We've had a ton over the past couple weeks specifically, and I want to bring this up quickly. I know it's been a long video, but you guys are used to it at this point. So we got a lot of stuff coming up for the NCAA tournament and the SEC tournament too. So not just necessarily on some of the SEC stuff, like everyone fills out a bracket, right? So we'll dive into some of the other stuff around the NCAA tournament too. We'll have some fun with that. So yeah, over the next month or so, you're going to be getting a lot of us. So sorry.
Yeah, and if you're interested in sponsoring this, because eventually we need to make some money on it to keep doing it, let us know too.
Yeah, let us know.
Chris.lee@southeastern14.com.
Uh-oh. You just gave out your email to all the angry fans that don't like you.
Well, if they're still watching at this point, they probably like us.
Updated email coming in the next video.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Behave, be good, and we will see you, if not today with the baseball video, then Thursday with basketball, depending on the time I've got. But anyway, either way, we'll see you Thursday. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and we do appreciate you.